Hi everybody, this is Clint Cap, and I've been asked to do a little tutorial on wicking on the Steam Crave RDTA Velocity deck. Many people new to the deck are having a little problem with leakage, myself included. I've spilled plenty of juice all over myself and all over everything in the beginning, trying to get used to how to properly wick the deck so that you decrease the likelihood of having leakage of juice coming from the airflow holes. Takes a little practice, takes a little time and patience and willingness to try again, but I thought I would cover this because I was asked to. So we'll go into how I do a simple single coil vertical build and then wick the deck so that it doesn't leak. The nice thing about this build is A, it's simple, B, it vapes like crazy, and C, if you practice it a few times, you won't have any juice running out of the airflow holes, which is really cool. The other nice thing about using a single vertical coil build is that it doesn't matter how the airflow holes align to the coil itself, because as you'll see further on in the video, the coil is mounted dead center between the two binding posts. So whether you're using the 4-hole band or the 2-hole band, you'll find that it really doesn't matter which holes align to what, because the airflow around the coil and in the chamber and then on up the chimney is just fantastic. And as with all the RDTA velocity builds, this is one of the best units that I've used for capturing every nuance of the flavor of the juice you're using. This is really a flavor lover's rig, as far as I'm concerned, and probably one of the best on the market. So we'll go ahead and switch camera angles, and we'll go through the process, and you'll see that it's really quite easy. Obviously, if you have an RDTA, you know how to build a coil, we think. I use a 2.5 millimeter winding pin. This particular build is built with Ni 200 nickel wire, 28 gauge. I use 12 wraps to get the height of the coil to align perfectly with the mounting holes on the binding posts. That way my leads are nice and straight, as you'll see. The height of the coil is just, perfectly in line with the height of the mounting holes. And then we'll go on to the wicking portion, which I can show you a cool trick to make sure that both sides of the building deck are adequately wicked so that you don't have any leakage issues. So we're going to switch the camera angle. We're going to go down to the building deck, and we'll continue. Okay, so we'll be right back. Okay, so here we have the RDTA Velocity building deck mounted to the bottom cap, mounted to my little resistance tester. Sorry about the background noise, but hey, that's just the way it goes. So anyway, if we look at the coil here, we'll see that this is a 12 wrap coil. It's mounted exactly in between the binding posts so that you get airflow from either side very easily, and you get a really, really good experience of the flavor of the juice. This is a very, very easy build to make, and so it is technically a contact coil. Again, using 12 wraps, 28 gauge wire, whether it be Cantal or nickel, and you spend a little time playing with the tweezers, and you heat it and glow it and compress it. And then I find it's easier to align the coil when I use a screwdriver shaft that's just a little bit smaller in diameter than the winding pin. So here we have a wad of our typical cotton. You can use really fancy, expensive cotton, or you can be a cheapskate like me and go to the pharmacy and buy a big package of facial cotton that's 100% organic, and use that stuff. And that's what I use. I'm very happy with it. People talk about bleach and contamination, and well, I've been vaping for a while and I'm still here. What you want to do is separate the layers of cotton, and then each sheet of cotton has like a top layer and a bottom layer, and these top and bottom layers are considerably harder than the stuff that's in the middle. So I use my tweezers and I peel off the harder top layer to get to the really soft stuff in the middle. And as cheap as this stuff is, it's like, ask me if I care how much cotton I throw in the garbage. With the fibers pointing sort of perpendicular to your body, I go through and just sort of pull the fibers apart a little bit to open up the cotton so that it has a very fancy word called good capillarity, or the ability to soak up stuff. I don't like nasty ends. You'll also find that the ends of the sheets of cotton have little hard parts on them, so I tend to cut the ends of the sheet of cotton off as well, because they won't wick nearly as efficiently as the good stuff in the middle. So we think of it like a center cut steak or something like that. All we want is the best part. So now we have a piece of cotton that's been delayered, and it's about 2 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in half like so. You've probably done this a million times. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the scissors and I'm going to cut it one more time in the middle, about halfway up. And what this allows me to do is to create 2 tails to deck the wick with. Bear with me while I adjust the camera angle. Okay, so wetting my fingers with my tongue, like rolling a joint, I'll go ahead and roll one side, turn it around, and then roll the other side, so that we have 2 little rolled sections of cotton, and then I just push it together and then just kind of pat it down a little bit, and then starting at the not split end, that's correct English, I'll just gently twist the cotton until I have a nice well-rolled sort of long cotton, I don't know what you'd call it, roll of cotton, sort of strand of roll of cotton. Okay, so this is the end that's been cut, so I'm going to pinch that really tightly, and then I'm going to cut that little hairy end off to make it easier to get into the coil, and that's where we begin. So okay, here we have our nice tight end. Here we have our building deck with the coil already aligned, center, and mounted. We're going to insert the tightly twisted end into the coil until the little bottom comes out. And remember, this is the split end. Now, this is a very fine pair of tweezers, which works great for building. And if you look at the building deck, the bottom of the building deck, you'll see there's the positive tab right here for the positive post. And then there's some space in the juice well where the juice holes are. So I'm going to take advantage of that space, and I'm going to grab the tail of the wick and pull it straight down into the juice well so that I get a nice movement of the cotton. Then grab the tail and just pull it out to the side to make sure that the cotton goes in easily into the coil. Just going to twist the cotton a little bit to make sure that it doesn't get wadded up and disfigure the coil, and then grab the coil or the cotton and pull down and keep pulling down, and then pull it out to the side like that, and then keep pulling down and down. And as you can see, it takes a little time, and you gotta kind of twist the cotton a little bit to make sure that it's not getting stuck on the coil. Pull the tail out of the way and keep pulling down. It takes a little bit of pressure, but the coil is quite strong at this point after being heated and compressed, and because the leads are so short, it really doesn't move around much. So it can take the resistance of the cotton being fed into the coil very easily. All right, so now we have about 1 finger's width of 2 leads of cotton sticking out of the side. I'm going to take my scissors, cut it off right at the top of the post like that, and then I'll go ahead and put it back on my building and then line it up so that you can see it. Okay, so now we have the building deck mounted, or the bottom cap and building deck mounted to the resistance tester. And we're going to take 2 pairs of tweezers, because it's easier, until you get the hang of it. Then you just need 1 pair of tweezers. And we're going to split the legs, just like this is why we cut the cotton. So now we've got 2 legs to work with to wick the deck. I'm going to grab my finest Phillips head screwdriver, and I'm going to take one of the legs of the wick, and I'm just going to push it underneath the coil. Hopefully you can see this well. And then I'm going to spin it around, grab my needle nose pliers, and then I'm going to find the loose end of the wick and pull it through. And here she comes, like that. So now what we've got is, we've got a fully wicked coil, and we've got 2 ends of cotton to work with. And the reason why that's important is, we've got our 4 juice holes that we need to make sure get covered with cotton. Because if they're not covered with cotton well, then it's going to leak out the airflow control holes, and you'll have a nice mess. So we're trying to avoid doing that in this tutorial. So moving along, I'm going to take the legs that we've created and fluff them out a little bit. So what we want to end up with is a fan looking sort of arrangement, and sort of open up any hard parts. So we've got a fan at about a 45, somewhere between a 35 and 45 degree angle. Very nice. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Opening up the cotton. This time I'm just going to use my fingers because I've done it a million times. Blah, blah, blah. How exciting. That's not working out so well, so maybe I will use a second pair of pliers or tweezers. And we'll just hold that in place and open that up like so. Okay, so here we are. We've got a nice amount of wicking on either side of the coil, and that should be pretty good for filling up the building deck so that we have good capillarity, good juice flow, and no leaks. So let's grab some creamy suckers, very flan for juice to start to wick the deck with. About a half a dropper full is all you need. I start on top, I get the fuzzy little end, and then I'll roll the whole unit over and make sure that I prime the coil really well first. Maybe you can see that. Okay, and then with the fans, I'll just put my finger underneath the fans, like so, and get those nice and wet so that they tuck in very nicely, and this is critical. You want everything to fit snugly, but not too tight as to restrict the airflow or the juice flow. Okay, so now coming back to our tiny little Phillips head screwdriver, we're going to go ahead and tuck. We're going to start by tucking the wicking in just underneath the coil a little bit. And actually that's coming up on camera pretty nicely. I can't hold the flashlight and do this at the same time, but so we've tucked a little bit of wicking in underneath the coil. Now we start to press the wicking into the juice well and then fold it over, okay, and then push the cotton in down into the juice well. And what you want to make sure of is, and this takes a little bit of sensitivity with your hand and screwdriver, is that you have a nice even bed of cotton going from one binding post to the other binding post. And what you don't want to have is an empty space. Now I feel this, I can feel the bottom of the deck right here very easily. So I'm going to take an extra little wad of cotton, not much, just a little. And I'm going to put it on the end of my screwdriver like so. And I'm just going to get it on my screwdriver, and then I'm just going to tuck it in where I felt what I would call a void. And then this way it's a little extra insurance that the deck won't leak out the air flow control holes. And then gently tap everything into place, making sure that there's no loose fibers hanging over the lip where the chamber actually screws down to assemble the tank. And then we'll go ahead and do the other side. And it's no big deal if it feels kind of empty, because you can always just grab another little piece of cotton, and I suggest using just little bits at a time to avoid overpacking the deck. But we'll go ahead and pack that little extra piece in there. And then take these fibers over and get it down. And as soon as the cotton absorbs some of the juice, it becomes very, very easy to work with. And I'm feeling around. I'm making sure that there's cotton all the way to the binding posts. The entire base of the building deck is covered, but not packed too tightly. So I see I've got a little piece hanging over here. We'll tuck that in, press all of that down, and boom, that's pretty much it. So if there's any questions about any of this, or if you want to see how I built the coil and align it, just go ahead and message me on Facebook or add a comment saying, how did you do that? And I'll be happy to show you how I built the coil and installed it as well. So we're going to stop the camera and I'm going to mount the coil to a mod. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So I've got my nickel coil mounted to an IPVD2. We have to always remember to set the resistance first by holding the up and down button. I'm showing 0.124 ohms, which is really nice. I've got it set to 26 joules. It seems like the IPVD2 likes a little bit more power than, say, my SX Mini ML or my VT200. But now we've got the coil on the mod. We're going to go ahead and, just for the sake of little cotton singeing insurance, put a couple more drops of juice on, and then we'll fire the mod and blow. And you can see that she blows very nicely. Now what's interesting to note is, even though I've added a significant amount of juice to the cotton, there's no juice in the juice well, which tells me that nothing has leaked down or in the reverse direction of what it would normally do. so that we should be pretty good. So one more time, we're just going to feel around, make sure the cotton feels good here, make sure the cotton feels good there. And after heating and cooling the coils, it's always a good idea to check your grub screws one more time before you put the chamber on to make sure that the screws are tight. But with nickel, be especially careful because it's possible to over tighten them and snap the wires. So we're going to pause the camera. Okay, and so here we have our RDTA 3mm tank that I've cut the nipple off, which everybody has done. So we're just going to go ahead and invert the unit, bring the tank up to the bottom cap, and screw it in place. Never over tighten things. Once it stops, it's up against the O-ring and it's plenty tight. So I've got my 2-hole vaping band on, and as soon as I can find one of my lovely, super lovely drip tips, gonna stop the camera. The joys of getting old, remembering things. So this is what it looks like when you cut the extension nipple off the top cap of a 3mm. And then, let's see, I don't have a 6mm handy to show you, but the 6mm top cap is what increases the capacity of the RDTA tank, and they are all interchangeable. So I'm going to put my straight through drip tip in, and boom, there we go. Now let's turn the thing on its side and see if it leaks. And we're looking at my hand, and we're looking at one juice hole which is pointing straight up. The other juice hole is pointing straight down. And if you were gonna have a leak, you'd know about it by now. So I would consider this a successful build. Let's go ahead and we'll switch cameras and we'll take a vape and we'll end the show, okay? Be right back. Okay, everybody, we're back, and here we are with my brand spanking new, where the fuck is the camera? SX Mini ML. Is it upside down? I don't know, I can't see. Nope, it's not. Anyway, we've got our RDTA 3ml tank with our denippled or circumcised top cap. We've got our single nickel 12 wrap 2.5mm coil mounted center between the two binding posts. I prefer to use the 2-hole vaping band, and like I said, when you're using a single coil mounted center, it doesn't really matter which of the airflow holes you're working with, if you're working with all 4 or only 2. If you're using the 2-hole band, try one pair of holes, see how it vapes, and then try the other pair of holes and see if it vapes better, and then use the holes that work the best. But here we are, 20 joules. My mod is showing a, can't see shit without my glasses, hang on. Dun, da, da. I'm showing a 0.17 build. Don't know if you can see that. Yeah, I think that's pretty clear, but it might be upside down or backwards, or who gives a fuck. So anyway, let's take a vape. One coil, 12 wraps, 2.5mm, 28 gauge wire, nickel, Cantal. Maybe you use tie, maybe you use stainless, but this is a very, very efficient build. And this is why I love the RDTA Velocity. The very flan has beautiful flavor. The nickel wire doesn't challenge the flavor of the juice at all. My cheap ass cotton works perfect, and I'm a very happy boy. And again, sitting here with the vaping holes, the airflow holes, one straight up, one straight down, no juice, just like it should be. One final suggestion when working with the RDTA, if you're an active person like I am, who rides a bicycle all the time with my friends, it's a good idea to rotate the vaping band ever so slightly just to block off the airflow control holes. If you've got your vaporizer in a bag that gets jiggled around a lot. Also, don't forget to lock your mod. I can't tell you the number of times that I've come back from a bicycle ride with a screaming hot mod because the power button has been pushed for half hour, 45 minutes or so. So anyway, one more time to align the airflow holes. One last puff. Fuck if that ain't great. Clint cap, Steam Crave RDTA, velocity deck, nickel wire, 28 gauge, 2.5 millimeter wrap, 12 coils. Give it a try, practice, don't get pissed off at yourself if it leaks. Try again. Thank you very much. I hope you all have a great day. Bye.